everyone, this is Daniela Camboni reporting from Colorado Springs. Well, folks, I don't need to tell you that stocks are at all-time highs. It's textbook bubble behavior, and it's why my colleague Joel Lippman is stepping forward with the biggest warning of his career. The next crash is underway for a specific reason that almost no one is paying attention to. He's issuing a rare recommendation to put nearly everything into a completely different approach, the one the rich have used to make a fortune in every crisis for decades. It's not gold or anything else you've likely considered. Joel will go live on Wednesday, September 27th with all the details, so you will not want to miss it. Head to September27warning.com right now to make sure you're on their list for updates. Again, that's September27warning.com. It's 100% free. Now back to the Daniela Camboni Show. Hi, this is Daniela Camboni. Welcome back to the Daniela Camboni Show here on Stansberry Research. We're continuing with our coverage, and joining me now is Frank Giustra, no stranger to the show and to the sector. So Frank, always good to be with you. How has life been?
Life has been great, and you were a great moderator yesterday. Really great job. You
We're going to talk about that. I want to continue that conversation. Right. Ultimate Gold panel with you, Robert Friedland, Pierre Lassonde. I mean, three titans of the industry. But I guess my first question to you is, Frank, I've known you for a very long time, but you had stepped away from this industry for a few years to work on a lot of other great stuff, philanthropic work, etc. But I see you fully in now, 100% back in.
I'm excited. There's a metals market coming. I've been saying that for a couple of years. It includes a precious metals market and a battery metals market. All those things are happening. We're going to have incredible demand for metals over the next decade or so, and there's just not enough supply. There's a great role for creating junior mining companies here, great opportunity, and that's why I staffed up a lot in the last couple of years, lots of technical people, engineers and geologists, and we're back in it.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about the projects that are close to your heart in the sector, but you mentioned the junior miners, and that was a key point during the panel yesterday when Pierre Lassonde said he sees them as fireflies right now. A gloomy outlook for the juniors, Pierre.
The juniors will be fireflies.
Fireflies.
Yeah, they're going to have a discovery and then they're going to disappear.
Yeah, they might, hit something and then poof, extinguish quickly. He painted a very negative picture and forecast for the juniors. What were your thoughts?
You heard my reply
I
on
did,
stage,
but
for the audience.
Yeah, for the audience.
Frank,
work with me here.
Yeah, no, I'm working with you. No, I had to counter that because I don't believe it. And I said this to a fellow yesterday. I've been in this market for 45 years, okay? I've seen a lot of bear markets, a lot of bull markets, a lot of very quiet times. And the feeling is always the same. When you're in the depths of a bear market where nobody cares about your sector and there are no buyers, there's no capital available, your feeling is that this will last forever, that it will never end, and that sentiment will never change. But you're proven wrong every time. And I'm even susceptible to it. Like I get through a long bear market and I feel, oh God, this is done. This will never come back. And then it comes back. And so I said to Pierre, you got to understand this is a sentiment issue with the market because there's value there. There's so much value. The cash flows, the profit margins, some of these producers are incredible, and their valuation is very, very low compared to other sectors, like very low. So I think it's just a matter of patience. Hang in there. You just have to own something that's good.
Right.
And then just hang in there. And I remember I had the same conversation with Pierre in 2001. When I was dreaming up Wheaton River, and I called him into a meeting with a group of other fellows like Ian Talfer and everybody else, and I pitched my idea about the coming gold market because gold was very cheap, and we should create a gold mining company. This is how we're going to make a lot of money. And Pierre said the same thing at that time. He said, Frank, you have no idea how bad it is out there. There's just nobody cares. And I said to him, you got to step away. It's the whole forest for the trees thing, You got to step away from when you're in it and you're being assaulted every day with problems. You tend to forget that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and it will come.
That makes sense because you could apply that to anything in your life, right? Like when you just can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, you don't see the other side to it. But I mean, Pierre's been in this game for a very long time as well. So I mean, I was kind of taken aback of how negative he
He's
was.
probably just getting grumpy.
And we love Pierre. We love Pierre.
I love him.
But you mentioned a key point: picking the winners. Is it enough? Okay, because if you even do just a little bit of homework, you'll figure out who the winners have been in this space. Frank Giustra and other names. Okay, so is it enough to just be like, well, Frank Giustra, that's a Frank Giustra deal. Let me just go into that.
It's a great start, but it's not enough. And so, first of all, you're right. There are only really a handful of people, in this industry of creating successful junior mining companies that do it consistently. There are lots of one-offs or two-offs, but people that have been in it for decades and have consistently delivered great ideas that become great companies. Okay, very small group. But that in itself doesn't guarantee success. It doesn't, because I've had failures. All the other fellows that I'm thinking on that hand have had failures, because that's the nature of business. It's certainly the nature of junior mining business, because there are all sorts of risks that you can't assess at the beginning. They just happen along the way. And there is a lot of luck involved in becoming very, very successful. You have to accept that there is luck involved. But you have to. What I bet on are people with experience that have done it time and time again. I call it's the perks of being a dinosaur in this industry. No, but there are perks to being a dinosaur. It's that you've seen it all before. You've seen all the mistakes. You know what not to do. It doesn't necessarily guarantee what you should do, but you certainly eliminate all of the dumb mistakes that people make continuously in this industry.
And the other thing I noticed about you, Frank, is you tend to do it with the same people. Like when you find good people you like, you'll keep them in your team.
Why mess with a good formula? And that's my, so why mess with something that continuously works?
Yeah.
I use the same model in building gold mining companies. I'm on my 4th or 5th one right now in 20-something years. And the formula is the same. So I would say, why mess with a formula that works? It makes me money, makes shareholders money. It's great. Other players in this industry have a different approach, different formulas that work for them. And that's great. I've got mine.
Do you think there's room for new players, like a new Frank Giustra to emerge?
100%. It's scary that there aren't enough young people, say millennials or Gen Zs, that are coming into this industry. Although I try and find them, and I try and get them to work with me, because those are the kind of people that I want to sponsor. I don't run companies. I don't even sit on boards anymore. I help create them. I give them advice, I give them strategic direction, I provide capital, I provide introductions. I do all those things, but I need a young person to actually go and make it happen. And we have a number of very talented young guys around me in my office, and it's the next generation. But there aren't enough in this industry. And I think it's because the mining industry in general has had such a bad rap about it being a dirty business, which is not true at the industrial mining level.
And I also think it just has to do with awareness. People are not thinking about it. Like I have young nieces, and I'm telling them, you should really, whether you want to go into law, well, maybe you want to do, legal work for a mining company. It's extremely lucrative. It's, you don't have to worry about, losing your job or whatnot. So I'm trying to get them thinking. Then they're like, oh, you know what? I never thought of it, right? So it's a little bit of that as well. But in terms of excitement, I saw the glow on your face. I saw the photos of you at a gold mine. You went to West Red Lake, which is the newest one, your baby. So I want to talk about that, because you're beaming in it. Of course, you're holding gold. You're there. You're underground. But I mean, you haven't done this in a while. Am I wrong?
I don't do it often.
Yeah.
I really don't do it often. And me in a mine, I'm not a geologist, I'm not an engineer, so I look at the rocks and I have people explaining to me that's actual gold, not pyrite. Trying to explain the difference. But it is exciting because, and in West Red Lake, it's very exciting because we've just created something that from almost nothing, and we bought an incredible mining operation for pennies, and I mean pennies on the dollar, for a perfectly good mine with a perfectly good ore body, brand new mill, all permitted, where we bought it cheap because the previous management made a series of really bad mistakes, which are all fixable. We've gone through the laundry list of what was the mistakes he had made that caused them to go bankrupt. And there's nothing that's not fixable in there. And so we bought this thing, and now we have an incredible management led by Shane Williams, who's this tough Irish underground miner who's built several mines around the world, and he knows what he's doing, and he's going to fix it. And we're going to do it methodically and slowly with the proper engineering studies and proper mine inventory, all the things that they didn't do. We're going to do them, and probably in 18 months' time, we'll put this thing back in production.
That's what I'm always curious about, is how are you made aware of these projects? I mean, can you provide insights? Like, do you get a phone call like, hey, Frank, I got something for you to see? Or like, how did this?
I surround myself by a very large team of geologists and engineers who have been in the industry for a while, have their connections, and through all of these people, we get this deal flow. Sometimes it comes through them. Sometimes it comes with a call from somebody I know directly to me. But when you have a reputation for making things work, when you have a reputation for having access to capital, you get deal flow, you get ideas. And lots of ideas come through the door every day. And most of them, we look at them and we go, it's not for us, okay? But occasionally, you see this little gem, you go, well, that's interesting. And then we have the ability to move very quickly. That's the thing. We have speed because we have a machine. Our organization is like a machine. When we make a decision to get behind something and finance it, we have teams of corporate finance people. We know all the rules and regulations. We can do all of it from soup to nuts to get that company listed, financed, sponsored, and everything. And we've done this like hundreds of times over the last 30 years. And so that's why people come to us with ideas. So we get a lot of ideas, and like I said, occasionally you find a gem.
Yeah. So this is what happened with West Red Lake and
exactly.
It
was one of my guys. It was Rob McLeod who came to me. He goes, everybody saw that Pure Gold had gone bankrupt, and the Matson mine was there.
Right.
And people had ideas about why it didn't work. I don't think anybody really knew all of the issues. We sent our team, due diligence team, in there so fast. Like they were on the plane the next day when it was announced. They were on the plane and we did a complete due diligence, and we submitted an offer very early in the process that they had to go through the bankruptcy process. And the reason, I don't know who the other bidders were, and I have some ideas, but the reason we got it, and the fellows that had the debt, that had control over who bought it, told me directly, the reason we got it is because they knew with us, if they took shares of a public company as opposed to just a little bit of cash to walk away, that they would make their money back.
Right.
And I think they have a very good chance of making their money back. And I just met with the portfolio manager yesterday. They own 24% of the company. And so they came to us because they knew we were competent, that we had access to capital, and we had the patience to see this through, to create the value that should have been there.
And I think you hit on something before when you said you don't pretend to be or to know what a geologist knows or whatever, accounting or legal, but you obviously, I mean, it's an understatement to say you've been successful in business, but do you think, because people always ask me, like, how did Frank do it? Like, do you think that's something that's innate, that you were born with, that business sense, or is it something that you think you learned and perfected over the years, or is a part of it just natural instinct, that some people are just better at business?
Yeah, I'm not one to kind of assess myself, but I think the one thing that you have to have is enthusiasm. You have to be able to be truly enthusiastic about an idea. And my whole life, I've had that kind of enthusiasm, where I was building a gold mining company, or building a movie studio company, a film company, or starting an olive oil business, whatever. When I get into something, it's because I'm passionate about it. Food, cooking, all the things that that I love. And I loved the art of creating mining companies. I learned it early when I ran Yorkton as an investment bank, long time ago. So I learned what the Ross Beatties and the Lucas Lundins and the Robert Friedlands and the Telfers, they were all my clients.
So you were
We raised money,
studying.
we were raising,
Right.
so I learned little tidbits from each one of them.
Wow.
Because they all had different approaches. So I learned a little bit from all of them. And so after I left Lionsgate and I came back into the mining business to start Wheaton River, I took all of the skill sets that I learned in investment banking. I knew how to corral people around me, important people, influential people, to get them to buy into my dream. I had a vision. It was just an idea. I wrote a paper on gold in 2001, and my view was that gold was going to go a lot higher. I published that paper, and that got me to thinking about creating a gold mining company. So I thought, who are the best guys? So I called them up. I called Pierre. I called Ian Telfer, and I called Frank Holmes, and I called all these, G. McBurney.
Right.
I called them all into a meeting. I said, guys, here's my theory. Let's build something. And after a little bit, it took a while to sell them. They finally came on board, and we did it. Okay, but it started with an enthusiastic vision. I said, gold's going a lot higher. We have to do this.
Yeah.
And the thing about enthusiasm, it's contagious. If you truly believe, if someone looks at you and they believe that you are genuinely enthusiastic about something, it's contagious. You get some of that enthusiasm. It works like a charm.
And I like how you basically surrounded yourself to learn, right? And I remember you've told me this, if let's say your children want to get into the business, you would say the same thing. Like, you don't want to be there one-on-one teaching them, like, this is how you build a gold mine. You would just say, surround yourself, learn.
That's exactly what
right?
My son approached me, and he was interested in this business. At first, my first question to him was, do you love it? I mean, you got to love this stuff, because I don't care what you do in life. Choose something, but love it, because if you don't love it, you're going to be miserable. And I just want you to be happy. So if you think that this industry is going to be better than whatever else you were thinking about before, great. But then you want to learn it, you're going to learn it from the bottom up, and you're going to learn it by working with other people in this business, and they will teach you different aspects of this from the bottom up. You're not going to be in the C-suite.
Right,
okay?
right.
It's not going to happen.
Right, exactly. I want to bring up something I mentioned during the panel. I brought up what I call the B word, Bitcoin. Because still to this day, people are still watching the great gold Bitcoin debate. Way over 2 million views now. People are still talking about it, and I still have people emailing saying, you know what, Frank won that debate. And it's not a matter of who won or lost, whatever. But the point is, given the crypto winter, and I remember before there was so much talk of how Bitcoin was killing gold and whatnot. Do you think that rhetoric has died somewhat, or has it helped the gold market in any way? The fact that Bitcoin's enthusiasm has waned?
Marginally, I think. I think it has. I think gold has gone up to where it is now for reasons that have nothing to do with Bitcoin. But I think Bitcoin did have a role in suppressing the gold price for so long. When Bitcoin was very popular, it was trading at $60,000 a coin when we had the debate. And they were kind of, poo-pooing gold is useless, as a barbaric relic, is going to zero, Bitcoin's going to a million. As you know, that's what upset me, and that's why I called you and I said, I want this debate. I need to have this debate. And so I think that any folks that saw all that money printing that was taking place in 2020 would have naturally gone to gold rather than Bitcoin. But they did. The Bitcoin guys, to give them credit, did a great marketing job. Like, they marketed way better than the gold industry. And I think the gold industry has a lot to learn about how the crypto world has marketed. But anyway, they hyped Bitcoin to 65,000 on all of these ideas that it was going to replace gold, and it was laughable. It was, I couldn't believe that there were actually people out there that thought that this could even happen.
Have you spoken to Michael Saylor since?
No, I haven't, and you know what? It just, the problem. I'm on Twitter, he's on Twitter, and he's got his loyal cult following, and and they kept. Even after it was long over, and I completely don't want to talk about it anymore.
Right.
And we had the debate.
Yeah.
I've said my piece. He said his piece. And like I always said, give it 5 years. I said, don't judge either myself or Michael Saylor. Give it 5 years, because that's going to give it enough time to see whether Bitcoin is like a gold or not. And so far, it hasn't been. Okay, and so maybe it will be. My educated guess, looking at all the things that could go wrong, watching what's happened to Bitcoin. It was a momentum play where all the big players with the big names got in and they all got out. Everyone, all the people that were promoting, Elon Musk and Tio, they all sold. It's now a retail play. And, who knows whether it's going to be around forever or not. I don't know, but I certainly know it's not gold. It does not have the characteristics of gold. I want to sleep at night. I want to put my money into gold, something that took two neutron stars to collide to create.
And something central banks keep buying.
And
on that point, I don't want to make this conversation, about global economics, because I'll save that for another time. But I do want to touch base of when we last spoke, because there's been so much unfolding. BRICS, new nations want to be added. Everything you've been talking about we're inching closer to whatever that reset will look like.
Yeah. And do you remember that when we first spoke about this,
Yeah.
it was you were shocked that I was even saying
was.
it. How could this?
I was.
People were going, "Are you serious?
Yep.
This will never happen."
And it wasn't too long ago. It was
not that long ago, but all of a sudden
Yeah.
now it's like it's out.
Yeah,
It's
you're
out
right.
there, and it's happening. There will be. Listen, the central banks of the world, and it's the exact same countries that are BRICS, plus the BRICS that joined recently, plus the BRICS, the applicants that want to join BRICS. All of those countries have been accumulating gold like crazy over the last 13 years, and it's accelerating now. They're really piling it on. So the central banks are basically screaming an invitation to you. And I don't know what else they need to do except maybe have a central bank stand on a table in ladies' underwear singing "Heart of Gold," because no, but seriously,
Yeah.
they're telling you that something's up. And I don't think the West is listening. Okay, I think the gold
Right.
enthusiasm is in the East.
Well, we're
'cause
seeing
that's
it.
where all the physical gold is going.
Right. We're seeing
all
it in
of
the premiums. Absolutely.
You saw the premiums in
Yeah.
China, the $120 an ounce premium, insane.
Have you changed any thoughts regarding the Fed and what they're going to do here?
I think the Fed is in a real box, and they know it. They understand that they have to be very careful now. They've jacked up rates far higher than anybody imagined that they would. Okay, so you got to give them that. But the longer they keep them up here, the more damage it's going to cause to a very fragile system that's overloaded with debt. I mean, whether the corporate, the individual, government. You know that there's $7.6 trillion of treasuries coming due this year that have to be refinanced at new rates. You think about a country with $33 trillion in debt growing by $1 or $2 trillion a year with a 5% interest coupon. It'll bankrupt America. They all know this. Everybody knows this. And they actually know that the rate hikes have a lag effect. So you have to now start looking at the leading economic indicators, and you see that the economies are slowing. Okay, it is slowing, and banks are underwater. Some financial accident is going to happen, and it could end up being a spiral here. And I think the charade of pretending they're going to beat inflation is a charade. They know they can't. Inflation, although it's not 9%, I think it will never get to 2%. It'll probably, for the next decade or so, until we have a restructuring of some kind, hover around the 5-6% level. We're going to be in a world of elevated inflation where you get these spikes sometimes. When you get an energy shock, for instance, let's say oil goes to 130, which could very easily happen. You'll get these price shocks. And now you have these wage price spirals taking place. You got the auto workers, people haven't had a raise in 40 years, so they're going to be, with all this inflation, they're going to be demanding. So you get this wage spiral.
I chuckle because just this morning I heard Jim Cramer saying how he thinks we've seen the top in oil, and I'm thinking,
Jim Cramer.
I know.
I am sorry. I'm sorry. He is hardly ever right. And I wrote a piece on this. I know. Listen, I don't know why people listen to Jim Cramer. Nice guy, but he knows as much as anybody else in this room knows about what's going to happen tomorrow in a stock. Okay.
Frank Giustra, this isn't Orvieto, the setting, but you know what? I'll take any time with you. Thank you so much, and if I may say, congratulations to you and Francesca on your growing family.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great seeing you.
You too. And thank you. It's always a pleasure catching up with Frank Giustra. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Keep watching the Daniela Camboni Show. We'll have much more great content coming your way, so stay tuned.
Opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the contributor and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Stansberry Research, its parent company, or affiliates.